AD 25XX. Mankind must rid the universe of evil. It's a death-defying risk, and only a hero can succeed.
Now, I don't know about you folks, but I thought that was a deep and thought-provoking storyline for a video game licensed by Nintendo for play on your Nintendo Entertainment System. This is Gyruss from Ultra Games, otherwise known as not Konami, but totally is Konami, but it's a long story. Moving on. Based on the 1983 Konami arcade game of the same name, Gyruss is what some would call a tube shooter, where your spaceship basically moves around in a circular motion and shoots down an abstract tube of sorts. Perhaps the best example of a tube shooter that immediately comes to mind is Tempest, where you basically move around in a circular motion and shoot down a tube. Aside from the tube shooter aspect, however, the core gameplay of Gyruss is basically similar to Galaga, where enemy ships fly into formation before beginning to attack. Once you clear the formation, you move on to the next level, where you kinda sort of do the same thing. See, the idea behind Gyruss is that you're warping to planets. It usually takes about 3 warps to reach a planet, of which there are several depending on what year you're watching this in. At the end of the 3rd warp, you face off against a boss, a new feature for this version of Gyruss that didn't exist in the arcade original. Defeating this boss will advance you to a challenge stage similar to what you'd find in Galaga, and then you head on to the next planet, you do the whole shebang all over again. A single hit is all it takes to do you in, whether it's from enemy fire or collision with another object. However, you do have help in the form of power-ups that will upgrade your standard guns to twin guns, as well as pickups that will allow you to shoot powerful energy blasts to blade through anything that crosses its path. And then of course there's the usual bonus points and the occasional 1-up. Gyruss is a single-player game that offers 2 control schemes. Control A makes full use of the directional pad by splitting it, for lack of a better term, into 4 quadrants. In essence, you basically roll the D-pad around to move the ship, and it works fairly well, I think. Control B allows you to move your ship by either pressing left or right, and you'll spin in the corresponding direction. This control scheme didn't quite work as well for me, and it did affect my gameplay in a negative fashion, but I'm sure someone playing this will prefer this game if Control A doesn't suit your fancy. Neither is perfect, but at the very least, you have an option on how to control your ship, which is much appreciated. So this is Gyruss in the wonderful world of Nintendo. My first exposure to any semblance of Gyruss, and you know what? I liked this more than I expected. Once you get a feel for the way the game controls in either setup, and once you pick a setup that works best for you, I suppose, it's pretty straightforward basic shooting fare that plays out as you'd expect a game of this ilk would. Ships show up on screen, you blow them up before they blow you up, continue until the end of time, and while you're at it, rack up them points for extra lives and stuff. And while this would have been fun as a straight-up arcade conversion, the extra flourishes that the game offers gives it a bit more flavor and makes it unique among its various home console ports, for the most part. Graphically, Gyruss looks okay. Scaling objects in perspective was never a particularly strong suit on the NES, but it's handled adequately enough here. The individual ships and obstacles look alright for the most part. They've got a bit of detail close up and are readily distinct from afar. Some of the bosses look somewhat samey after a while, but all in all, not too shabby. In typical Ultra Software Corporation fashion, Gyruss has good taste in chip music. You have Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor playing that classic upbeat, heart-pounding Ultra 8-bit sound to complement the game's other original tracks, which is equally as catching and as heart-pounding and appropriate for the action. You've got them classic Konami sound effects of shooting, exploding, and stuff that you've heard on a bunch of them Konami-produced NES games. It's always top-notch quality stuff at the Konami sound department. Overall, Gyruss got the same treatment on the NES that other arcade classics such as Contra, Life Force, or Bionic Commando received when gracing the old family computer. They took the bare essentials of the arcade source material and added some bells and whistles to make it a more unique experience. As such, you've not only got a unique version of Gyruss that stays true to the arcade gameplay that it's based around, but also one that feels less like a straight port and more like an extended version. Gyruss is good fun, it's solid stuff, and has good taste in music. Sounds like a great game in my book. So that's it. That's all I got. Good night.